Today's lesson is called Cold Air, Hot Planet. Hello everyone, my name is Jeff.
I am Roger. Today we are going to be talking about air conditioning, which is going to be very important as we get closer and closer to the summer. It's probably heating up already as we speak, and you've probably already turned on your AC a number of times to keep yourself cool. And it seems simple, just turn it on and expect to pay a little bit more in your electricity bill at the end of the month. But there's more to it than that. These things consume a lot of energy and contribute to global warming.
Oh, so there you go. Now it makes sense, because I was thinking, cold air, hot planet, how do those two things fit together? If it's hot outside, you go inside, turn on the AC. No problem. You got that cold air. The hot planet stays hot out there. It's summertime. Big deal. Everybody's happy. Well, that's not exactly the case. To generate that cold air, you also generate some heat in the process, and you make the planet hotter in sum total. So, hey, you like that cold air coming out of your AC, but are you making the planet hotter as a result? Maybe. Anyways, folks, let's go ahead and take a short break. But when we come back, we'll start reading from our article called Cold Air, Hot Planet.
Cold air, hot planet. Anyone who has lived in a hot country knows the joy of stepping into an air-conditioned room or grabbing a cold drink from the fridge. Joys that are only possible to experience thanks to the cooling industry. Beyond providing these simple pleasures, cooling systems such as air conditioners and fridges are vital to our modern lives. They allow us to keep food fresh and safe, live comfortably in difficult climates, store medicine, and maintain data servers, among other things. They are, however, also seriously environmentally unfriendly, producing 3 times more carbon dioxide emissions than the aviation and shipping industries combined.
大家好，第一部分我们看到单字 air conditioned 这个字是形容词，意思是装有空调的。例如 Many of the workers complained that the air-conditioned office was too cold. 很多员工抱怨过开着空调的办公室太冷了。另外，以下补充2个相关单字。第一 air conditioner AIR CONDITIONER air conditioner 这个字是名词，意思是冷气机，像是 My uncle refused to have air conditioner in his house. 我叔叔拒绝在他家里装冷气机。第二 air conditioning AIR CONDITIONING air conditioning 这个字是名词，意思是空调。举例来说 I avoid using air conditioning as much as I can. 我尽可能避免使用空调。接着我们看到片语Among other things 表示别的先不说，除了前述所提的之外，例如 Fossils, among other things, can be seen at London's Natural History Museum. 在伦敦的自然史博物馆可以看到化石还有其他展品。再来我们看到单字 aviation 这个字是名词，指航空、飞行术、航空学。例如 Jason dreams of someday becoming an engineer and working in the aviation industry.Jason 梦想有朝一日成为工程师，在航空业工作。或是 The jet engine was one of the greatest advances in aviation history. 喷射引擎是航空史上最重要的发展之一。
Okay, let's do it. As promised, we're going to discuss the article now in detail. The first part here, anyone who has lived in a hot country knows the joy of stepping into an air-conditioned room or grabbing a cold drink from the fridge. Joys that are only possible to experience thanks to the cooling industry. This is a long sentence, so let's break it down here. If you are a person who has lived in a hot country like Indonesia or maybe Brazil or even here in Taiwan, then you will know the joy of stepping into an air-conditioned room. Yes, it feels oh so good if you've been walking outside in the hot sun and you can open the door to that department store or to that restaurant and step inside and oh, it feels so cool. It feels so nice.
Oh, it feels so great. That AC, that air conditioning. Oh, wow, how refreshing. But say it ain't so. Not only is AC bad, it says here if you grab a cold drink from your fridge, well, that's bad too. Oh no, say it ain't so. Anytime, apparently, you generate cold air using energy, electricity, so on and so forth, you're doing something that's potentially bad for the planet. And that's not a good thing. Anyways, when we talk about AC, we're talking about air conditioning. Basically, on a hot summer day, you come home, you turn on the air conditioning, and you have this fancy device that actually generates cold air and cools down your apartment. Now, it's more sophisticated than just a simple fan that just moves air around, and it might cool you down a little bit. AC goes the next step. It actually brings air into your house, cools it, and then pumps that cool air throughout your house and cools everything down. You can even set the temperature. Let's say you want it to be 25 degrees in your house. You can set that temperature on your air conditioning. By the way, if you do have an AC system in your room, you can say that that is an air-conditioned room.
Air-conditioned, yes, it's describing the room that is using an air conditioner. So that's the machine, the air conditioner, and then the system itself is called air conditioning. And if you describe the room or the place as having those facilities, you can say it's air conditioned. The room is air conditioned because it has air conditioning. It uses an air conditioner. So yes, indeed, you will come into that room and you will also take a cold drink from the fridge. And, of course, a refrigerator without the D. Refrigerator does not have the D, but fridge does have the letter D. If you take a cold drink from the fridge, ooh, that is a joy that is possible thanks to the cooling industry, which, of course, is a series of companies that produce refrigerators and air conditioners and other related devices.
That is correct. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on. The next sentence says, beyond providing these simple pleasures, cooling systems, such as air conditioners and fridges, are vital to our modern lives. Yes, we shouldn't be living in certain places on planet Earth. I've heard that if we didn't have the cooling industry, people wouldn't live in the state of Arizona, or at least very few people would live there. In the summer, it gets so hot that without air conditioners everywhere and air conditioners in your car, house, so on and so forth, that it just wouldn't be worth living there at all. But because we do have the cooling industry, it is possible to live there. So in that particular situation, it is vital to have the cooling industry, to have cooling systems. Otherwise, our modern lives might not be possible. By the way, if something is vital, it's extremely important. It's crucial. You have to have that thing.
Yes, if you want to speak good Chinese, for example, it is vital to understand the four tones. If you don't understand those four tones, you're going to sound terrible when you try to speak Chinese. That, of course, is advice for foreigners trying to learn Chinese. But yes, indeed, air conditioners and refrigerators are vital to our modern lives. We can't live without them. They allow us to keep food fresh and safe. They allow us to live comfortably in difficult climates like Arizona or here in Taiwan, maybe the Philippines too. They also allow us to store medicine and to maintain data servers, which I guess are certain kinds of companies that store data on the cloud or whatever. That's where all your photographs go. They're stored in those data servers, among other things. So indeed, we do need these things for all these different types of services.
There you go, the list that we have here. We can store medicine, maintain data servers. That list could go on and on and on, but we're not going to go on and on because we only have a limited amount of space. So that's why we're using this phrase here, among other things. There are many other things that we could list in this situation, but we don't need to go on. We've made our point.
Now, to continue, it says, they are, however, also seriously environmentally unfriendly. They're not environmentally friendly, they're unfriendly, and they produce 3 times more carbon dioxide emissions than the aviation and shipping industries combined or altogether. So here we've got carbon dioxide, which of course is CO2, and emissions. That's a countable noun. That just means something that is given off by something else. Like your scooter, every once in a while, you need to go down and have the emissions checked.
There you go. Or when you're driving your car there, you burn that gasoline, some smoke comes out the back. That smoke, that's a form of an emission. Further, aviation. When I think of aviation, I think of flying, airplanes and stuff like that. The aviation industry. There you go. You get in a plane, you fly somewhere, you're using the aviation industry. All right, folks, with that, it's time for us to take a break, but don't go away. We'll be right back after this.
Air conditioners are particularly power hungry. Cooling a single room on average consumes more power than running 4 fridges. But the sheer amount of energy being used isn't the only problem. Air conditioners and fridges also contain chemicals that are extremely powerful greenhouse gases. These chemicals, known as HFCs and HCFCs, are thousands of times more potent than carbon dioxide is when it comes to warming the planet. And despite the fact that these chemicals are safely contained within an appliance for most of its life, careless disposal of old cooling equipment can cause these chemicals to leak into the atmosphere where they stay around, sometimes for decades, trapping the sun's heat.
第二部分我们看到形容词 potent 指强力的、有效的，像是 The photos of starving children were potent evidence of a growing humanitarian disaster. 饥饿儿童的照片是人道灾难加剧的强力证据，或是 The king's crown was a potent symbol of his authority. 国王的王冠是其强而有力的权威象征。接下来我们看到单字 appliance 这个字是名词，指家用电器、装置。我们可以说 Hammond wants to buy another kitchen appliance with his year-end bonus. Hammond 想用年终奖金再买一个厨房电器。或是 I'm going to the appliance store to look for a new refrigerator. 我要去电器行找新的冰箱。最后我们看到名词 disposal 指丢弃、清除。举例来说 Improper disposal of drugs and chemicals can damage the environment. 不当丢弃药品和化学制品会破坏环境。另外，以下补充2个相关单字。第一 dispose D-I-S-P-O-S-E dispose 这个字是动词，指处置、丢弃。例如 Where's the garbage can? I need to dispose of this candy wrapper. 垃圾桶在哪里？我要丢这张糖果纸。第二 disposable D-I-S-P-O-S-A-B-L-E disposable 这个字是形容词，指抛弃式的，用后即丢弃的。我们可以说 Janet does not use disposable diapers because she says they are bad for the environment. Janet 不用抛弃式尿布，因为她说那对环境有害。再补充一个相关片语 at one's disposal 表示任由某人处置、支配，像是 The wealthy man had 5 servants at his disposal inside his mansion. 这名富豪在他的大宅里有5个佣人供他使唤。
Okay, so far we're talking about the cooling industry and air conditioners and refrigerators and freezers and stuff like that. Well, let's focus on air conditioners, those machines that we all have in our homes to keep them cool during the hot summer. Air conditioners are particularly power hungry. If something is power hungry, it is hungry for power. That could mean hungry for power in terms of being the boss or a captain of industry, having lots of power and influence. But in this particular case, they use a lot of energy. AC units or air conditioners just use a lot of electricity.
Yeah, and get this, cooling a single room, on average, consumes more power than running 4 fridges. So there you go. You've got a fridge in your kitchen there. It keeps your food cool, and that's great. Hey, that AC, though, that's power hungry. You can run 4 fridges just to cool a single room on average. How about that? Yes, when you're cooling a single room, you sure are using or consuming a whole lot of power. But the sheer amount of energy being used isn't the only problem.
Sheer here is just used for emphasis of the word amount, the high amount or the sheer amount of energy being used. That's not the only problem, okay? We've got plenty of energy. We can continue to use our nuclear reactors here in Taiwan and not worry about the fallout and stuff like that. It's well taken care of by our government. But indeed, yes, that isn't the only problem. Air conditioners and fridges also contain chemicals that are extremely powerful greenhouse gases. Those are gases that, of course, get trapped in the atmosphere and then trap heat from the sun, just like a greenhouse. Okay, that's also referred to as the greenhouse effect. Carbon dioxide and methane and various gases get in the atmosphere, and don't let that energy go back out into space.
There you go. Now, these chemicals, okay, known as HFCs and HCFCs, are thousands of times, yes, that's not a typo, they're thousands of times more potent. They're thousands of times stronger than carbon dioxide is when it comes to warming the planet. So yes, it's not just that these things, air conditioners and refrigerators, are consuming a whole lot of energy. It's that they contain these terrible chemicals. By the way, HFCs and HCFCs are really, really bad. I believe that CFC stands for chlorofluorocarbon. I heard about this in chemistry class when I was growing up. Basically, CFCs in any form destroy the ozone layer, and that's not a good thing at all, and apparently they're really, really bad. Just thousands of times worse and more potent and stronger than carbon dioxide.
Let's see, HFC stands for hydrofluorocarbon, and HCFC stands for hydrochlorofluorocarbon. Yes, they are thousands of times more potent, more effective than carbon dioxide if we're talking about warming the planet. Yes, indeed, if we want to warm the planet up, this is how we'll do it. And despite the fact that these chemicals are safely contained within an appliance for most of its life, careless disposal of old cooling equipment can cause these chemicals to leak into the atmosphere, where they stay around sometimes for decades, trapping the sun's heat. So indeed, despite the fact that these chemicals are safely contained, even though they're safely contained in the appliance for most of its lifetime, they still can get out later on. An appliance, of course, is some kind of device that you use in your house, such as your refrigerator, your oven, your air conditioner.
Yeah, usually an appliance is something that you can move around. It's not too big, as opposed to a fixture that's stuck in place. But usually you do refer to an AC as being an appliance anyway. So here, those chemicals, they stay in that appliance while you use it. But then maybe you throw it away, and the person who gets rid of it, who disposes of it, maybe they do that in a careless way. And then those chemicals get out, they leak into the atmosphere, and they cause those problems. And that's not a good thing. So there you go. Just because you throw it away and you think everything is A-okay, well, that's not necessarily the case. Make sure that if you do throw these things away, that they're not disposed of in a careless manner. By the way, yes, disposal, that's the act of throwing something away or getting rid of something. All right, folks, with that, it's time for us to hear from the Chinese teacher and to say bye-bye for now.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第一部分最后一句提到，冷却系统所制造的二氧化碳排放是航空业和运输业两者加起来的3倍。那文中是用到 3 times more carbon dioxide emissions than 什么什么来表达。那么还有课文第二部分提到说，冷气机和冰箱含有极强大的温室气体，那些化学物质的威力是二氧化碳的好几千倍。这时候文中它用到thousands of times more potent than 什么什么来表达。那么 potent 就是用来形容是强力的、有效的。好，那这边我们就来学习倍数的表示法。我们在用倍数进行比较时，一般就是用数字加上 times 来表达几倍，像 3 times 3倍、4 times 4倍等等。那么一半会用 half， 2倍呢可以用 2 times 或者是 twice。好，那来看常见的倍数说法有以下的3种。第一种呢，我们可以用倍数加上比较级加上 than， 或者是倍数加比较级加上名词加上 than。 例如 The city's population is 4 times larger than Taipei's， 那个城市的人口数是台北的4倍。那要特别注意哦， half 和 twice 不能用这样的比较级句型来进行比较。当我们要表达2倍时，这时候必须用 2 times 比较级 than 什么什么。好，再来看第二种倍数说法是倍数加上 as 形容词 as 或是 as 副词 as， 或者是呢 as 形容词加上名词 as 点点点。好，例如 The dog is 3 times as heavy as our cat， 那只狗的体重呢是我们猫咪的3倍。好，第三个倍数说法是用倍数加上 the 加上名词计量词再加 of 什么什么。那么英文里面常见的名词计量词有包含 size、 length、 age、 number、 weight、 height 等等。举例来说， Their new apartment is twice the size of their old one， 他们的新公寓是旧公寓的2倍大。这个用法有时候我们也会看到另外一种句型表达方式是倍数加上 once 加上名词计量词。例如 His son is about half his height， 他儿子的身高大约是他的一半， half his height 就是他身高的一半。好，接着我们看到课文第二部分的第二句有一个单字是 consume， 我们来学习它的字首字根。好，看到字根 sume 或是 sumpt， 它就有这种拿、消耗或是花费的意思。在 consume 这个字当中，它的字首 con 是做强调用，那字根 sume 表示花费取用，合在一起 consume 它就有消耗、花费或者是食用、饮用的意思。我们顺便补充2个这一类字根的单字。第一个补充的是 sumptuous， sumptuous。好，那它的字根 sumpt 表示花费， ous 是形容词字尾，合在一起 sumptuous 是用来形容昂贵的、奢侈的或是豪华的。第二个补充的是 resume， resume， 它的字首 re 表示再次，那么字根 sume 表示取用，再次取用是什么意思呢？好，其实 resume 它就有这种继续进行或是重新开始的意思咯。好，以上是今天的重点整理，我们来回顾这些单字吧。
Vital. Good communication among employees is vital to an organization's success. Server. Our website is currently down as we are having trouble with our servers. Emission. The company agreed to reduce its carbon dioxide emissions over the next 5 years. Aviation. The aviation industry has suffered huge losses in revenue over the past year. Consume. Marty's old car consumed much more gas than his new one does. Sheer. The sheer amount of work that Ted has to do is stressing him out. Appliance. It's a good idea to unplug your household appliances when they are not in use.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you guys enjoyed reading and learning along with us. I am Jeff.
I am Roger.
See you next time.